Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go! It was just another typical Saturday afternoon and I was out doing some grocery shopping at my local supermarket. I had just finished picking up some items from the bakery where I heard a commotion coming from the other end of the store. As I made my way over, I saw a woman shouting and causing a scene in front of the meat section. I couldn't help but stare, wondering what could have caused such a scene. As I got closer, I could hear her demanding that the store give her a refund for a package of meat she had bought earlier that day. The store manager was trying his best to calm her down, but she just kept getting angrier and angrier.
"What do you mean I can't get a refund?"
She screamed at the manager.
"This meat is spoiled. I demand my money back."
As I approached, I could see that the meat in question was not even opened yet, and it looked perfectly fine. The woman was just being unreasonable, and I could tell that the manager was starting to get frustrated with her. The manager tells her, "That meat is perfectly good, ma'am. I'm sorry, but we cannot give you a refund."
"Fine, I'll just take my business elsewhere."
And as she stormed off, I couldn't help but shake my head. What the hell was that even for? I continued with my shopping, not giving the incident a second thought. That is, until I saw the woman again. But this time in the parking lot. She was standing in front of my car, arms crossed and a scowl on her face. "Excuse me, ma'am," I said, trying to get past her. She didn't move, just stood there with a look of pure disdain on her face. "Can I help you with something?" I asked, and she answers with,
"Yes, you can. I need a ride home."
I was taken aback by her audacity. "Sorry, but I can't give you a ride home. I don't even know you."
"Well, you better figure something out, because I'm not leaving until you do,"
she said while still blocking my way. I was getting more and more agitated by the second. Who did this woman think she was? Demanding a ride from a complete stranger. "I don't know what to tell you, ma'am, but I am not going to give you a ride." The woman just stood there, arms crossed, and I could feel my frustration boiling over. I had had enough of her entitled attitude. "Look, lady, I don't owe you anything. Now move out of my way before I call the police." The woman just smirked at me, clearly thinking I was just bluffing. But I wasn't. I pulled out my phone and started dialing 911, hoping that she would get the hint and move. Instead, she reached out and grabbed my phone from my hand, tossing it onto the ground and shattering the screen.
"And that's what you get for being rude to me,"
she shouted, lunging at me. I stumbled back, barely managing to avoid her flailing arms. I could feel the anger and fear rising in me, and I knew that I had to do something before she hurt me. I quickly scanned the parking lot, looking for something to defend myself with. My eyes landed on a shopping cart, and I quickly made my way over to it, grabbing it by the handle and holding it in front of me like a shield. The woman came at me again, but this time with even more force. But I was ready. I swung the shopping cart at her, hitting her square in the chest and knocking her to the ground. The woman let out a yelp of pain as she hit the asphalt, and I could see that she was struggling to catch her breath. But before I could even think about helping her, she jumped back up and came right at me again.
"You're going to regret that,"
she shouted. I knew that I couldn't hold her off for much longer. I was smaller and weaker than she was, and she seemed determined to hurt me. Just as I was starting to lose hope, I heard a voice behind me. "Hey, what's going on here?" I turned to see a police officer approaching, his hand resting on his gun. "This woman attacked me," I shouted, pointing at the woman who was now gasping for air on the ground. The officer quickly assessed the situation and took control of it. He took the woman into custody and asked me if I needed any medical attention. "I'm okay," I said, still shaken from the adrenaline rush. "Thank you for coming." The officer took my statement and let me go, telling me that I had acted in self-defense and that I wouldn't be facing any charges. As I walked back to my car, I couldn't help but feel relieved that the ordeal was over. But at that same time, I was angry that someone could be so entitled and aggressive for absolutely no reason. I got into my car and drove away, hoping that I would never have to deal with someone like that again. But I knew that there were always going to be entitled people out there, just waiting to take advantage of others. All I could do was try to stay calm and assertive and hope that I wouldn't have to use a shopping cart as a weapon again anytime soon. I sat in my car trying to calm down. It wasn't easy when your blood was boiling and your heart was racing. I had just been humiliated in front of the entire neighborhood by my nemesis, Karen. She always had to one-up me, always had to make me look bad. But not today. Today, I had a plan. You see, Karen and I have been rivals since we were kids. We grew up in the same neighborhood and went to the same school. We were always competing. Whether it was for the top grades, the lead in the school play, or the attention of the cute boy down the street. It didn't matter what it was. Karen had to win. As we got older, things didn't get any better. We both went to the same college, and even though we were in different majors, Karen still managed to make everything a competition. She would brag about her grades, her internships, and her job offers. I tried my best to ignore her, but it was hard when she was constantly in my face. After college, we both moved back to the neighborhood. Karen got a job at her father's law firm, while I started my own business. It was a small boutique that sold handmade jewelry and accessories. I loved my job, but Karen couldn't resist the chance to make things difficult for me. She would come into my shop and criticize everything, from my designs to my pricing. It was like she was trying to drive me out of business, but I wasn't going to let her win. I had a plan, and it was going to be epic. It all started a few weeks ago when Karen threw a party at her house. She had invited everyone in the neighborhood, including me. I was hesitant to go, but I figured it would be a good chance to network and meet some new customers. Plus, I had a plan. I arrived at the party looking my best in a dress I had designed myself. Karen was there, of course, wearing a designer outfit that probably cost more than my entire boutique. She came over to me with a smirk on her face.
Nice dress,
she said, looking me up and down.
Did you make it yourself?
I smiled sweetly. Yes, I did. Thank you for noticing. Karen rolled her eyes.
Well, I hope it's better quality than your jewelry. I heard that one of your necklaces fell apart on a customer.
I could feel my blood boiling, but I kept my cool. Well, I'm sorry to hear that. I stand by the quality of my products, but if there was a problem, I will be happy to fix it. Karen just laughed. Good luck with that. Your business is never going to make it. That was the moment I have been waiting for. I excused myself and went to the bathroom. I pulled out my phone and dialed a number. Hey, it's me, I said when the person on the other end picked up. Is everything ready? Yes, it's all set, the person replied. Are you sure you want to go through with this? I'm sure. I've had enough of Karen's crap. It's time to take her down a peg. The person on the other end chuckled. Alright then, let's do this. I hung up and took a deep breath. I looked at myself in the mirror and smiled. It was time to show Karen who was boss. I left the bathroom and made my way to the backyard where most of the party-goers were gathered. Karen was there holding court as usual. I walked up to her and tapped her on the shoulder. Excuse me, Karen. Can we talk for a minute? Karen turned to me with a look of annoyance on her face. What do you want? I just wanted to clear the air between us. I know we've had our differences in the past, but I think it's time we put all that behind us. Karen looked at me suspiciously.
What are you up to?
Nothing, I said, holding up my hands in a gesture of innocence. I just want to start fresh. Can't we be friends? Karen hesitated for a moment. Then she nodded.
Okay, sure. Friends.
I smiled. Great. Now, I have a surprise for you. I turned around and signaled to someone who was standing off to the side. A few moments later, a group of people came out carrying a large banner. They unfurled it, revealing a picture of Karen with the words, "World's Best Lawyer," written above it. Karen's face went from confusion to anger in a matter of seconds.
What the hell is this?
she yelled. You see, the picture I printed on that banner was a horrific picture of her. I've had it for some years now. It was taken back when we were at school, and let's just say that Karen is not really ugly or anything like that. But that one picture was a terribly hideous one of her, to be honest. And I knew there will be time for it to be of use to me. So yeah, I stepped forward and said, "It's a tribute to you, Karen. We wanted to show you how much we appreciate all the hard work you do." Karen was seizing. "This is ridiculous. Take it down now." I shook my head. "I'm sorry, Karen. We can't do that. We worked really hard on this, and we want everyone to see it." Karen took a step toward me. Her fists clenched. "I said take it down now." I didn't back down. "No, Karen. This is our way of showing you how much we respect you. If you can't handle it, that is not our problem." Then Karen snapped that went at my neck, but I was ready for her. I sidestepped her attack and grabbed her by the arm, twisting it behind her back. She let out a scream of pain, but I didn't let it go. I leaned in close to her ear. "I am not going to let you bully me anymore, Karen," I whispered. "I am done playing your games. From now on, we're going to be equals. If you can't handle that, well, I guess you'll just have to suffer the consequences." Karen struggled for a few more seconds, but then she went limp. I released her and she stumbled backwards, rubbing her sore arm. The rest of the party-goers were staring at us, their mouths agape. I could see the fear in Karen's eyes as she looked around, realizing that she had just lost control of the situation. I smiled at her, feeling a sense of triumph. "Enjoy the party, Karen. I will see you around." With that, I walked away having a good feeling that I had never felt before. I had finally beaten Karen at her own game, and there was no going back now. From now on, things were going to be different. It all started with an innocent school project. I was excited to work on it because it was about my favorite subject, history. My name is Lily, and I'm a 14-year-old girl who loves learning about the past. I am not a popular kid at school, but I'm happy with my small circle of friends. On the day we were supposed to present our projects, I arrived at school early and headed to my history class. As I entered the classroom, I noticed that my teacher, Karen, was already there. Karen was a strict teacher who never smiled and always seemed angry. She was tall, had a sharp nose, and her hair was pulled back in a tight bun. I didn't like her, but I tried my best to be a good student. As I walked towards my seat, I tripped on something and almost fell. It was a piece of paper that had been left on the floor. I picked it up and saw that it was my project. It had been crumbled up and stepped on. Wow, I was devastated. I had worked on this project for weeks, and now it was ruined. Karen noticed me looking at the paper and said, "Oh yeah, that's just your project. It wasn't good enough, so I threw it away." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I had worked so hard on it, and Karen just threw it away without even giving me a chance to present it. She had a grudge against me, and she clearly threw the project exactly where I could see it. She was clearly after demoralizing me. I felt angry and upset. I wanted to tell my mom, but I knew she was busy with work, so I decided to wait until I got home. After school, I told my mama bear what had happened, and she was livid. Mama bear is my mom, and she's the most loving and caring person I know. She's not someone you want to mess with, especially when it comes to her cups. Mama bear is a lawyer, and she knows how to handle difficult situations. The next day, Mama bear came to school with me. She asked to speak with Karen and demanded an explanation for what had happened to my projects. Karen was rude and dismissive, telling my mom that I hadn't put enough effort into it. Mama bear wasn't having any of it. She told Karen that she had no right to throw away my project and that she needed to make it right. Karen became defensive and the situation escalated, and Mama bear called the principal, and the three of them sat down to discuss the issue. During the meeting, Karen continued to be rude and uncooperative. She refused to apologize or make things right. Mama Bear kept her cool though. She presented evidence of my hard work and dedication to the project. She also explained how Karen's actions had hurt me emotionally and affected my academic performance. The principal listened to both sides and decided that Karen was in the wrong. He gave her a warning and told her to apologize to me and to my mom. But Karen refused. And that's when things got even worse. Mama Bear decided to take legal action against Karen. She filed a complaint with the school board and reported Karen's behavior to the local police. Karen had broken the law by destroying my property, and Mama Bear wanted her to face the consequences. A few weeks later, Karen was arrested for destruction of property and disorderly conduct. She lost her job and had to pay a fine. After the incident, Mom and I became even closer. She always had my back, and I knew that I could count on her no matter what. I felt empowered knowing that I had a strong and fearless mother who would do anything to protect me. It was a cold and rainy night, the kind that makes you want to stay indoors with a good book and a warm cup of tea. But instead, I found myself standing in front of my boss's office, listening to him berate me for a mistake I didn't even make. You see, my boss was notorious for micromanaging every aspect of our work, and he often took credit for our accomplishments while blaming us for his own failures. He was a bully, plain and simple, and I had had enough. So I decided to take matters into my own hands and give him a taste of his own medicine. I started by complying with his every demand, but in the most malicious way possible. One day he asked me to create a report on our company's financials, which was a task I had done many times before. But instead of doing it the usual way, I decided to make it as difficult and time-consuming as possible. I created an elaborate system of formulas and calculations that would take hours to complete, knowing full well that he needed the report by the end of the day. When he came to check on my progress, I simply smiled and said that I was working on it. As the day went on, I could see the frustration building in his face as he realized that I wasn't going to finish on time. He started pacing back and forth, muttering under his breath, and even slammed his fist on a desk in anger. Finally, as the clock struck 5, I printed out the report and handed it to him with a smile. He looked at it in disbelief, then turned to me with a scowl on his face. "You spent the entire day on this?" he asked. "Yes, sir," I replied innocently. He shook his head and muttered something under his breath. Then he stormed out of the office, but I knew that I had won. Over the next few weeks, I continued my campaign of malicious compliance, always making sure to follow his every demand to the letter, but in the most annoying and time-consuming way possible. And every time he complained, I simply smiled and said, "But sir, I did exactly what you asked me to do." It wasn't long before my boss started to realize that he couldn't control me like he did the others. He began to treat me with a newfound respect. I don't know if it's the right word to use here, but yeah. He even started to give me more freedom to work on my own projects. Looking back on that time, I realized that my experience with my boss had taught me an important lesson, but not letting others push me around. And while my methods may have been unconventional, childish and risky, you may say, but they worked, and I was able to regain my confidence and self-respect. So if you ever find yourself in a situation where someone is trying to control you, remember that there is always a way to fight back. Sometimes it just takes a little bit of creativity and a lot of malicious compliance. And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching and see you next time.